Welcome to Everything Pro Wrestling. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. And I am your host, Conrad Cushman, and we are here today with a preview of the Elimination Chamber 2019 with Bryan Mazique. Episode 45 of the Everything Pro Wrestling podcast is dedicated to the memory and career of Pedro Morales, who passed away today at the age of 76. Welcome to episode 45 of the Everything Pro Wrestling podcast. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. And I am your host, Conrad Cushman. And with me today, I have a very special guest. It is Bryan Mazique from Forbes. Bryan, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you having me.
Bryan is absolutely one of my favorite people to watch. He's been one of my favorites on YouTube for quite some time. So if you're into video games, sports, I highly recommend that you give Bryan a follow. And Bryan, where can the people find you at right now if they wanted to get in contact with you?
Well, if anybody knows me, they can find me in a lot of different places. Probably too many, actually. But you can follow me on YouTube at Unique Mazique. And you can also check out my YouTube channels. I said channels mean plural because I'm a man of many channels. But it's Unique Mazique. The one is kind of mostly basketball. I kind of tagged it all Bulls everything because I'm gonna start representing my squad a little bit harder than I have been. And I have a wrestling channel. It's called Wrestling with Mazique. And then a friend of mine and someone you know, Nelson Blake, we have our own channel for our own podcast called the At Me Bro Show. So those three places.
That's right. So make sure you give him a follow at Unique Mazique on Twitter. And they also have a Twitter handle for At Me Bro. It's the @ MEBROSHOW, the At Me Bro Show. So make sure you check that stuff out, guys. I guarantee you it's content you do not want to miss. But we are here today to give a preview for the Elimination Chamber show that is happening this Sunday. It looks like it's going to be a potential sleeper show for WWE. There's a lot of things going on. But before we get into that, there is one thing I did want to talk with you about. Bryan, you're an old school wrestling fan. And today I saw that Pedro Morales passed away. And he passed away at the age of 76. Pedro Morales is a former WWF champion, and he was an Intercontinental champion. WWE Hall of Fame class 1995, Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame inductee in 2017. Do you have any memories about Pedro Morales that you'd like to share? Anything that reminded you of him, or memories with your dad watching it?
Well, when I was a kid, like he was one of the first guys that I remember watching when I was, a kid back. I'm talking about like in the WWF, So I remember him from there. I also remember him as one of the only Hispanic wrestlers of the time of any prominence. And I always kind of thought to myself, like, as far as just as a minority, like looking and like, man, why aren't there more, minority wrestlers? Why aren't there more Hispanics? Why aren't there more African Americans? You know what I mean? So I did dig, he caught my attention for that reason, first and foremost. And then I just really appreciated, the in-ring stuff. At that time, there weren't, many high flyers and people doing with these really expansive move sets. So it was more about presence than anything. And I thought that Pedro Morales always had a strong presence. And I thought he represented and carried the Puerto Rican flag quite well.
That is a respectable answer. And I know I have a lot of younger people who listen to the podcast sometimes. I encourage anyone who's a younger listener to go out there and try and find some Pedro Morales footage. And once again, I'd like to give my condolences to his family on his passing.
Yes.
With that being said, let's get into this Elimination Chamber preview show. Bryan, what have you thought of the build up to this show thus far? Have Raw and SmackDown been doing it for you? Have they shown enough effort? We were promised change a little bit ago, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that first.
Well, I think that the shows have been pretty good over the past 2 to 3 weeks. Overall, I think they've been pretty decent. I thought Raw was really good yesterday, and I saw that the ratings were down again, which it's kind of, you got to pay attention to the ratings, but at the same time, the ratings don't necessarily tell you how good the show was, because either you're watching it or you're not. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't, I guess there is a good piece of a good amount of people who maybe aren't watching it first, and then they're looking at Twitter or social media and they start seeing everybody talking about something, then they switch it on. But a lot of people, I think, start watching from the beginning, especially since usually whatever the major storyline for that particular episode is introduced in the beginning. So, and from the beginning, you don't know how good the show is going to be or not, Sometimes, like, I know for me, if they put like a whack main event up, I'm like, okay, yeah, see, I'll probably watch this on DVR and skip through the commercials and only stop when I see something interesting. But I think a few weeks ago they had, like, I forget what the main event was, like Braun Strowman and Kurt Angle against Corbin and Drew McIntyre, which I thought was terrible. Not because all four of those guys are terrible, but because it's irritating me that Drew McIntyre is running into whatever this invisible ceiling is that he's running into. But I don't think the show's been bad. I think it's been pretty good leading up to Elimination Chamber. You know what I think the challenge is with Elimination Chamber? The challenge with booking for this particular pay-per-view is doing something. Because they kind of have to tell you what WrestleMania is sooner rather than later, so that they can get the hype building and they can get a bunch of people excited about it and making plans to travel there or whatever they're going to do for WrestleMania. So because of that, there's a lot that's like etched in stone to a degree. So here comes Elimination Chamber that's in between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. And they got to kind of watch not to disturb too much of what they've already said they're going to do, right? So in that sense, you kind of watch your Elimination Chamber kind of thinking and knowing, well, so-and-so's not going to lose. Because then if that's going to mess up this blah, blah, blah match at WrestleMania. So that's a challenge for them booking, to not have the same, not to, to be able to do something that still isn't predictable, you know what I'm saying? And still maintain whatever they've established for WrestleMania. But that said, I think leading up to it, they've done a pretty decent job.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a different opinion on that, but I do want to piggyback real quick off of what you said about the ratings. One thing that people always should remember too, ratings do not go up immediately. A long time ago when it was WWF versus WCW, I remember thinking WWF was the better show for quite some time before the ratings actually reflected that they were the better show. So you can't always believe what the ratings say. It's kind of what you feel in your heart while you're watching these shows. And we'll get into it towards the end of the show. I kind of have some questions for you in regards to that, but I'll get into my complaints later. Let's go with the first match. Now, I'm kind of guessing the order of these matches. The first match, I think that's going to be the pre-show match, which is a shame, is going to be for the Cruiserweight title. We have Buddy Murphy versus Akira Tozawa. At this point in time, I wish that these guys were in a better position. I feel absolutely terrible that Buddy Murphy is such a great wrestler and he's stuck on the pre-show constantly, and he delivers pretty good matches. Like, I would say he has the top 5 match on all of these pay-per-view cards, but he's stuck on that because he's a cruiserweight, and I just don't think they view 205 Live as a serious show or something that they can sell to their sponsors.
Well, that's the problem in itself. Buddy Murphy shouldn't be a cruiserweight.
Listen, if I could, Mustafa Ali, Buddy Murphy, and Cedric Alexander would all be on the main roster if it was up to me.
Well, Cedric Alexander is like superbly athletic and all of that, but I can't stand the way he sells and the way and his facial expressions. It's oh my god, it drives me nuts. Like I'm stunned look. I want to jump off of something every time I see it. I'm like, dude, would you stop doing that? It legitimately bothers me. I'm like, this is terrible. Like, and selling is a tough thing. I think a lot of people think selling is easy. Selling is tough. That's why there's so few people who are really, really good at it. And I think he definitely goes overboard, with his selling. Yeah, like to me, the best sellers right now are, and Dolph can go a little overboard sometimes, but Dolph is really good, has been really good for a long time. Seth is really good, and Sami Zayn are really good as sellers.
Yes.
Cedric Alexander is like an extra. Like he's like selling on steroids for real. Like it's like, yeah, bro.
He's extra.
It's really extra. Read all about it. It is really, really. I'm like, dude, if you did not step on a landmine, okay, that's not what just happened. You know, that was a punch. It's just I don't know. But the other two guys you just said, I mean, Mustafa Ali pretty much is on the main roster now.
Yes.
But Buddy Murphy should be on there. I mean, Buddy Murphy has the power and all of that. I mean, so you mean to tell me that when Ricochet gets called up, he's going to Cruiserweight to 205?
Absolutely not. That man, because they're going to use him to sell T-shirts and video games and stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, so what's the physical difference between Buddy Murphy and Ricochet?
Listen, Brian, we're going to get into some good stuff in this. I think we're having a good conversation about a lot of things on this. Yeah. But he's facing Akira Tozawa in this match, and I wouldn't sleep on this one. I think this has the potential to be another good one. Tozawa's kind of one of the quiet cruiserweights who can come in and kill a match real quick, and I think he'll be good for this one. I got Buddy Murphy winning this one. Who do you think is going to take this match?
I would like to see Buddy Murphy win, unless he's losing to get called up to the main roster. Then I'll take that. I don't like Akira Tozawa, and it's not, to me, his fault. I just hate without trying to get too serious, because we are talking wrestling, I really just hate the blatant, ignorant, ridiculous, stereotypical, gimmicks that everybody of some, different, outside of just being flat American, if you're Asian, you gotta embody, some sort of stereotype. The only one who kind of gets away from it is Shinsuke. He's the only one. Every other Asian person in the WWE almost is saddled with this gimmick. And I don't think it's all by their own doing. So Akira Tozawa and his like, what is, dude? Like, come on, bro. Like,
Do you think that's something that they need to get past eventually? Because even Shinsuke Nakamura, with the I speak no English, and they still fall back onto those stereotypes sometimes. And I wonder if wrestling would be better off as viewed as more of an athletic sport field versus these gimmicks and trying to tell these stories where you use stereotypes.
Here's the thing. I really think that people should have, like, within reason, of course. I mean, you can't come out and say, my gimmick is that I abuse children. I mean, you can't do that. But I do think that to a degree, you have to allow the person to create their own gimmick, right? And as long as it's not something that is, like I said, offensive and horrible or something to that effect, let them do their own thing. And I don't think that a lot of these performers from different countries would always pick gimmicks that say, hey, look at me. I'm about to be every single Asian stereotype you've ever heard. Watch me. I don't think that they would. And I don't think that every African-American superstar would be like, I got to have a dance move, right? I got to have, I got to have a dance part. It's got to happen, but if Velveteen Dream gets caught up and he says, you know what, I want to have a dance solo, And if that's his idea, then let that be on him. But I just feel like it just, have you ever noticed, like, every time there's an African American, like, he's always has to go at, like, his feud is always with another African American, almost every time. Like, only the top African American stars ever feud with somebody who's not African American. Same thing for the Hispanic stars. Like Lucha, Lucha House Party. You bet. Here they go. They're going to be matched up with other, Hispanic, Spanish wrestlers. Even in the Royal Rumble, right? Look at the Royal Rumble. You have Titus O'Neil hops in. The first person he's going to go attack is the other African American, or the other African American wrestler in the ring. And this is not their choice. They're not saying this is what I'm going to do. This is all booked this way, And I just think it's just kind of crazy that in 2019 the WWE still operates on a lot of these principles, man. It's just it blows me sometimes. Like, I'm like, I love wrestling, and a big reason I love wrestling is the WWE. But I'm like, bro, like, come on, like.
I think a lot of wrestlers too, even when you said that, I instantly thought, though, a lot of wrestlers work with their friends. Mm-hmm. Shawn Michaels, when he's on top, he worked with Diesel, he worked with Triple H, he worked with 1-2-3 Kid, the Clique, basically. So maybe that's part of the reason, or maybe there's a barrier for understanding, like, hey, this guy speaks Spanish, so we can get in here and talk Spanish with each other. Maybe that's the reason. I hope that's what it is, but I could see it being the other way too. And you also have to look at who is running their company. As Absolutely. Bad as this may sound, Vince McMahon is starting to get kind of old. And my father and Vince McMahon are the same age. And when me and my father talk wrestling, it's so funny how much I disagree with some of the stuff he says. And he thinks just like Vince, though. He's like, Rey Mysterio, there's no way that guy's winning. He's too small. And I'm like, but Dad, he sells masks. If you're a businessman, wouldn't you like make him win so that you can sell more masks? He's just like, but he's too small. He just can't get past that. And I'm just like, you have to let him win so that people want to buy the mask. But he wants the believability behind it. And it's just so awkward to.
I mean, I like the believability too. Like, I do. I'm not going to lie. I don't like, here's the thing. This is the way I watch wrestling. And this is the way I watch movies. This is the way I watch anything that is dramatized or scripted. I agree to live in the world that you create with the parameters that you have created, right? So you tell me at the very beginning what each character is capable of, right? And if for whatever reason, this character then gets some sort of enhancement or some sort of development that allows them to this, that, or this, then you'll explain that to me as you tell your story. And I agree to live in that world that you have created, right? So if I'm watching an action film and the protagonist is not able to leap a tall building in a single bound, from in the first 30 minutes of this film, they're not able to do that. But here we are 55, 60 minutes into the film, and now they're faced with this really tough opponent. And you need to make sure that they beat this opponent, and suddenly you have them leap a tall building in a single bound without telling me why they're able to do that. So all of a sudden, this person just is capable of doing that. So my thing is, if Rey Mysterio's a small guy and he has, strength limitations and size limitations, all these different things, if he's going to beat the Big Show, if he's going to beat Braun Strowman, you need to give me a plausible reason of how he was able to do this. Don't have all of a sudden, now Braun Strowman can't catch his leg in a 619. Braun Strowman can't this or that. Just all of us for no good reason. To me, that's just good storytelling, And so that I'm not saying Rey Mysterio can't win, but when he wins, let it be believable the way he wins.
I like that. Good conversation piece right there. Let's get to the next match. This is the one I think that'll start off the main roster card unless they add a Rusev Nakamura teaming up match or something again. against one of the phantom tag teams that they can't bother to put on TV because their contracts aren't up yet. We got Braun Strowman versus Baron Corbin. Bryan, I got to admit to you, man, I am sick and tired of seeing Braun Strowman versus Baron Corbin, man. I can't anymore. I'm ready for it to be over and just move on. I got Braun winning this one.
Yeah, I hope he wins it and it finally ends the feud. But I will say this. Baron Corbin has gotten much better in this role. At first, he was so bad. He couldn't, his mic work has gotten a lot better. Like now he's actually kind of funny. And he didn't used to be at all. His kind of deadpan, smart alecky kind of humor is actually kind of good now. At first, it was whoa bad. I mean, like, oh my God, like the male leader bad. It was bad, right? But now he's gotten a little bit more entertaining, and but the feud is still trash. Big bags of trash. It's just it needs to stop.
It just doesn't belong, and I feel like this feud is weighing down Drew McIntyre as well, and I feel like it's even weighing Kurt Angle down. Like Kurt Angle doesn't belong in here with these guys. Like I don't know, he just looks out of place, and he looks. I don't want to say it because I love Kurt Angle. He looks old.
Kurt Angle looks out of place everywhere where there isn't a senior division. It's not good, bro. I mean, I love Kurt Angle, but it's not good right now, man. It looks really bad. I mean, I don't recall the last time I saw a rebooted legend look more physically damaged. And like Sting didn't look this bad. Like when he came back he didn't look this bad. I mean, DDP didn't look this bad. Road Dogg and Billy Gunn like never ages though. Billy Gunn's like he's been like 30 for like 15 years.
That's because he keeps all that meanness in his body so that he can never get older.
I mean, he's been like 30 for like 15 years. Like he looks almost the same. As he, it's ridiculous. I don't understand how he does. But
I just feel like that moment when Kurt Angle left Impact Wrestling, or it may have been TNA at the time. I can't keep up with it at this point. But when he left Impact and he transitioned to WWE, it just seemed like, dude, whatever time period happened in between, he just got old. They were just like, man, I'm sitting back chilling. I'm about to just get my money, do this Hall of Fame, do one or two matches, and I'm done. But it seems like they've had to call on him due to all these injuries a lot. And I just don't know what place Kurt's going to have after this. I think Kurt just needs to do fewer appearances to make himself more meaningful.
I would be interested in finding out what benefit he could have or how good of a job he could do as a color commentator. I really would. I really do. I'm gonna say something that is probably gonna be taken a certain type of way, but if you listen to what I'm saying, you'll see where I'm coming from. I'm all for the women's revolution and evolution. I'm all for it on all fronts. I think it's been outstanding. The quality of female wrestling has been phenomenal. Just like there are so many good female performers in the WWE right now. It's insane, right? But Renee Young's not good. Renee Young's not good. She's not good at all.
I can agree with you on that front. I thought Renee Young was perfect for backstage. Renee Young reminds me of her and Charlie Caruso are someone who I could see on ESPN eventually, and they would be a great personality to have on there.
I don't think Renee Young would be good on ESPN. I think Charlie Caruso would probably be good on ESPN, but I don't.
I think Renee would be a good segue person. You don't think so? I always thought she did better in kind of like that backstage interview role. She does
do better. She is better there. I will agree there. But I don't see it. And I say that to say I think Kurt Angle would be better in Renee Young's spot than Renee Young. But I don't think we'll see that because the WWE is trying to have female representation on different levels of their business. But Renee's not good.
So do you think it's crazy that Coach isn't on commentary too? I'm just throwing a side question out there.
Because
I never liked Coach on commentary myself.
It's not. I don't think he's as great. I think he's better backstage. I think he's awesome with that. But I think his status level might be too big for that at this point, because he left and went to ESPN and kind of got that whole thing going. So maybe he feels he's bigger than that. I don't know. That I don't know. But I do know that I don't. Renee Young's not like, I liked her backstage. She was cool with that, and as the reporter in that situation. But she just always, what she sounds like when you play a sports video game and they have commentary, and you can tell that none of the commentators recorded their lines together.
Oh, you mean WWE?
The WWE and MLB The Show.
Yeah.
When the comment, and they just had these random comments that just come out, like, when Renee Young is her most entertaining is when Corey Graves is giving her the business because she just said something ridiculous.
Yeah, and you know what? They put her in some bad spots too, though. Like the Dean Ambrose thing. Why would you have her out there? And then they're like, Renee, what's going on with your husband? She's like, what am I supposed to say?
They're tossing her a softball that she can crack out of the park, and she won't do it.
I don't think she can, but she's a baby face and her husband's a heel. So why would you even draw attention to that to make her seem do you know what I mean? So it makes her seem less.
I think they're doing it for a reason. I think she's getting an opportunity to kind of really establish something for herself and really like do it and become a part of something that could spawn into like an actual storyline if she would take the opportunity to do it and just say something like, it's easy for her to remain a face and still support Dean Ambrose. I mean, supporting her husband is the most face type of behavior she could do. You know what I mean? She could just be like, I don't, just like you probably don't agree with every single thing your significant other might do, but more than anything, you always have their back. And I'm always going to have Dean Ambrose's back no matter what. It's something to that effect. She could do that. And it's like, she doesn't, everybody who does commentary is not really good at like thinking on their feet when the cameras are on. Like, not everybody's good at that. Like Corey's good at that. The Miz is great at that. When they put Miz on commentary, he's phenomenal, right?
Did you ever watch her on like Talking Smack though? See, like I felt like here's the weird thing with it, Brian. For me, like when Vince McMahon's in your headset, I know that man's in your headset. I could tell by how they seem like they're on eggshells, all of them, and I can't say this word.
Not Corey. Corey doesn't seem like he's on eggshells.
I think Corey's a favorite though too. Like Corey's kind of loved.
Yeah, I think Corey is like he'll ask for forgiveness before he asks for permission.
Yeah, just by his Twitter rant the other day with whatever fan he went off on, I won't even get into that. You guys can go to his Twitter to see that. But I just feel like they walk on eggshells because I don't like Michael Cole as an announcer. I'll be the first one to admit it. But when Michael Cole did the UK show with Nigel McGuinness and there was no Vince McMahon and they said Triple H was backstage and he just said, talk about wrestling. That's what we're here for. And Triple H wasn't really saying too much to them on the headsets except for like, hey, plug this, plug that. Mm-hmm. It worked out. Michael Cole, that was one of the better times where I actually enjoyed his commentary. And you can't really catch me saying that. Mauro Ranallo is someone who I always enjoy. There aren't too many people in the WWE that I'm like, man, I really enjoy their commentary. Half of them, I'm just like, dude, I can't stand you. I would rather watch it on mute. But
I do like Corey. Michael Cole has had moments, but what I think Michael Cole has fallen into at this point, and it may be what you're talking about, Michael Cole has fallen into a very formulaic approach. And he says the same things every match. Now, obviously, everybody's going to have their catchphrases, but everything is the same.
No, man, he sounds just like the video games. It's boss time. I'm like, oh, Lord.
Yeah, every time. Like, everything's the exact same thing, So that, he plays it very safe, and that's, now JBL used to be good when he would do it, but then he came back. I don't know what happened, and it seemed like all of the flavor got sucked out of him. Now, who I think would be awesome, like, so, and obviously this isn't possible because she's not there anymore, but if AJ Lee was in Renee Young's space, it would be phenomenal. It would have been insane, because you want to talk about somebody like who's going to be quick and have quips and come back and blah, blah. It's going to be like, she has it. She has that thing, where she could do that job easy. Renee doesn't have that. Well, at least she hasn't shown it.
I think WWE fears that same thing, though. Like, that's a trait of a good announcer, but WWE also fears that. It's not like when it was Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan and Vince knew them, or when it's Vince and Jesse, or JR and the King, and he knows those guys. Now I feel like he doesn't know what AJ's going to say because she hangs out with Phil, and Phil sometimes gets a little rowdy, and Phil's CM Punk. And I don't know if I could trust them. And I really think that they're fearful of those different things like that. But we've spent enough time talking about the announcers and everything else. We're going to get back to this card momentarily, folks. For now, we are going to have a word from Everything College Basketball. We have March Madness right around the corner, so make sure you check out Josh and Peyton Burton's Everything College Basketball, and we'll be right back after this.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh Burton, inviting you all to come join the fastest growing group dedicated solely to college basketball, Everything College Basketball. Just go to Facebook and in the search bar type in Everything College Basketball. Once you've joined, feel free to begin chatting with other diehard college hoops nuts like yourselves. Also, while you're there, go check out the podcasts on Anchor, Podbean, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just search up Everything College Basketball Podcast, and as always, like, share, and subscribe. Ooh, yeah! Dig it!
All right, guys, and we're back. We just heard a word from Everything College Basketball. Please make sure that you guys go out and support their podcast. I've been a guest on there a couple times, just talking some college hoops. Nothing but fun. Me and Bryan are back, though. We're going to get into this Intercontinental title match. It is a handicap match with Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush versus Finn Balor. Now, I just want to toot my own horn for a second because I predicted before the Royal Rumble that Finn Balor would lose to Brock Lesnar and he is going after the Intercontinental title. And the question is it his time to win that Intercontinental title? I feel like Balor's got to grind a little bit more for this title, in my opinion. And I'm predicting Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush to win this one. Bryan, give me your perspective on all three of these competitors right now and where they're at.
I'm not a huge Finn Balor fan like everybody else. I'm not. I'm really not. I think his mic work is average at best. He is great in the ring. He's great in the ring. But I just think his mic work is really average. And I always feel a certain type of way about the person who I think everybody is trying to, like the fans are trying to fans have a problem when they think the WWE is trying to force someone down their throat. I have a problem when the fans try to force the writers to elevate somebody. And I think that kind of happened with Finn Balor. I think it definitely happened with Daniel Bryan. I just happen to like Daniel Bryan a little bit more.
Bryan, you got me laughing. I'm sorry. People could probably hear it in the background. This is the first time I've ever heard the fans are forcing someone on the writers. I like it.
It really kind of is. It's like the writers write a story, and they're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, right? And the fans like, no, I don't like your story. I like your story. I don't like the story. So I always liken it to like you go to a movie, right? Or you go to better yet, you go to a play. You go to a play, and they got these characters, right? And the character you like dies. You stand up at the play, boom, bring him back, bring him back. And you just start chanting. You won't allow any of the people on stage to finish their lines. You won't allow anybody on stage to go through the rest of their parts. You insist that they bring this person back that they killed. To me, that's what overdoing it and trying to be overbearing as a fan is with wrestling. The writers are writing a story. Okay? You're not in control of the story. And I'm not saying don't voice your opinion. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like these takeovers and like where you just like, if you feel like this one other guy is the person who received the push or the reward that you wanted your guy to get, now you start to disrupt the show. You won't let the show go on. Some of the things that I've seen, it's ridiculous. So I already wasn't a great big fan of Finn Balor, but because he's getting similar style support from people, that makes me like even more. but he is good in the ring. So he's not like he's trash or anything, but he is good in the ring. I love Lio Rush. I think Lio Rush is like an athletic hybrid between. He's like an athletic version of Slick and Paul Heyman. So it's like he's got some. It's a weird thing going on there. I don't know, but it works, right? And Lashley is like absolutely somebody who needs a manager, a mouthpiece. Absolutely. Like you've never seen a human being who looks less like their voice.
That is so true. Brock had the same problems too, though, they said at one point.
But it wasn't as bad as Bobby Lashley, because I was watching an old Brock promo. It was right after he knocked himself silly during the Shooting Star press. So it was the next, I think, SmackDown after that pay-per-view when he was against, I think it was, WrestleMania
19.
What was it? 19? Yeah, 19 against Kurt Angle. So his promo, he's in the ring by himself, right? And he's a babyface in the ring by himself, and he's cutting the promo with Michael Cole. And it wasn't fantastic. It wasn't. But it wasn't as bad as probably what Bobby Lashley's would have been. Because Bobby Lashley sounds like a docile algebra teacher.
I would do an impression, but it seems inappropriate at this time. And to your comments about Finn Balor, I'm going to come back to this, but I've been preaching this, and I know it's going to make somebody mad who's probably listening, who's like, I hate AEW, and I'm so tired of people bringing it up. Finn Balor's push, AEW effect. Mark my words. We'll get to it at the end for a second.
The revival too.
Mm-hmm. Let's get to the Raw Women's title. We got Ronda Rousey versus Ruby Riott. In my notes here, I have I was against the Riott Squad when they first started, but I have to say this every single time. They've won me over. As a group, I did not like them at first. I thought they were forcing it, and it seemed like it was too much. But now they've all seemed to mesh together very well. I have Ruby needs a good showing for this to get future opportunities because we all know she's not winning this match. As you can hear, Ronda is my prediction. And I wanted to get Bryan's thoughts on Ronda Rousey's transition from UFC to WWE in totality so far. And also her potential main event match. Does it need Charlotte to be good?
Well, first and foremost, I agree with you about the Riott Squad. I think they're great. I think they work really well together. Liv Morgan is really, really good. Really good. So, and just she's just her whole everything, the look, the in-ring style, everything. She's great. But so is Ruby and Sarah. So I think it's cool. I think for that match, what needs to happen is they need to lose. Ruby needs to lose, but they need to like injure Ronda. That's the only way it makes it like relevant going to WrestleMania. I think they need to injure her. So, in the storyline, of course, not like for real. But as far as Ronda's transition to, wait a minute, let me say, you asked me about the transition.
Yeah, from UFC.
And what was the other part?
And basically, does her main event match, because I assume that you're on the same boat. Do you think that that's main eventing, number one?
Yeah, actually, I wrote an article about this, and I got some really nasty feedback about, which meant I must have did something right. But I think her transition has been pretty good, to be honest. She is dreadful on the microphone, like dreadful. Like she had a promo a few weeks ago on Raw, right after the Royal Rumble. One of the top 5 worst promos I think I've ever heard in over 35 years of professional wrestling fandom. It was that bad.
Facts.
I mean, it was putrid. I'm talking, I have never seen the crowd literally take the microphone out of somebody's hands the way they did her. I mean, she looked so uncomfortable. She was so uncomfortable, I thought it was part of the script. I'm like, did they write it in for her to get overwhelmed? Or is she just literally this overwhelmed? And then when Bayley came out and saved her, I'm like, no, this was not scripted. She just fell apart.
And Bryan, I know you're a UFC fan. I think that she just melted in the middle of the ring, like she just melted right in front of everybody. Because you've seen it, I've seen it in UFC with her too, where she just melts in the middle of the octagon, or sometimes just talking. It just doesn't work for her. Roman Reigns had the exact same thing happen to him. I went to WrestleMania 33. He's getting the boos, and he held the mic there so long, perfectly, that he says, "It's my yard now," and then throws the mic down and walks away. And the people were just mad because they couldn't get him. They were like, "Oh, I hate him. I hate him." But Ronda just fell right into it.
She fell apart. And now I have seen Roman get buckled by the boos at one point. It wasn't as bad as that, but
his moment with Cena too. He got kind of
Cena clowned him. He said, "Well, first thing you got to do is you got to learn how to cut a promo." I was like, "Oh, that was nasty." So, but it wasn't quite as bad as this. I mean, okay, you got me to stutter. Oh God, just leave the building. Please leave the building. Leave your coat. Leave Rowdy's coat on the wall. And that's the other thing. She needs to get rid of that jacket. Like, stop hiding behind that jacket. Stop hiding behind his attire and, the female version of his attire. Just stop. You're just making people boo you more. Just stop. Just come out in like a onesie or something. I don't know. Anything. She'd do better if she came out with a diaper and a t-shirt and then keep coming out dressed as, Riott. Like, it's not cool. It's not working.
Now, I will say that if Rousey wasn't there, I don't know if there is a big enough female match without proper build. But now that Charlotte's been added to this, and once again, guys, I'm going to keep it real. I already know about, yes, wrestling's not real, surprise. But when you look at it, Becky Lynch is going to get put back into this match some way, somehow.
Right.
You have Becky, Charlotte. Does this match need Charlotte in it?
Yes. And here's why. And this is what I wrote about maybe a couple weeks ago. The match doesn't need Charlotte from a hype standpoint, but it needs her from an execution standpoint. How many times have we seen hyped matches and the actual in-ring work, because of whatever the limitations are of the performers, doesn't live up to the hype? Now, Becky and Ronda can do this by themselves from a hype standpoint. They can get it done and everybody will be watching. But really, how good would the match be? Right? How good would the match be? Because, like, Becky's super solid as a mat wrestler, and she can do all the moves, anything you want. She can sell anything you want. But Ronda's not great yet. Ronda's a great athlete by the WWE women's division standard. She's a great athlete. But I mean, she's easily her and Charlotte are the two best athletes in the women's on the women's roster. Alicia Fox is up there, and Naomi's up there, but overall, all things considered, when you put in strength, agility, all of those different things, those two are the best athletes.
No, I'm sorry. I'm going to piggyback off you real quick. To get on to that point, with Ronda, I basically, last night when they introduced Charlotte into the match, I basically wrote exactly what you said. I am not surprised. I am not shocked that this happened at all. And I don't know why fans were all in an uproar about it instantly afterwards. Like, you knew this was going to happen more than likely. And like you said, I think for this match, the hype doesn't need it at all. Becky can carry it by herself, in my opinion. But the match, if you want this match to be a Ricky Steamboat, Macho Man, Randy Savage, you're going to need to have someone else in there who can bring a little more juice to the match. And perhaps Charlotte can do that. Do I think they need Charlotte? No. They can still get away with it because you already bought your tickets. But
I think you don't want what you don't want is you don't want to have the first ever female main event and the rest be a bad match.
Yep.
You want it to be a bad match, and you don't want it to just be an average match, right? And
it has to create a moment or a memory.
Yes, Becky would have to carry Ronda in this match. She's going to have to carry her because Ronda is not experienced enough to put on you still see a lot of the transition type stuff with Ronda. A lot of placement, timing things are off. And I think it helps Ronda a great deal to have another experienced athlete in the ring, in the match, who can help this match be great. And I think that's what it's not. See, sometimes wrestling fans are just that too much. They're just too much of a fan, and they're not looking at it beyond, I really like her. They're not looking at it like from they're not looking at it anything beyond that. And who cares if you like Charlotte? Nobody cares. It's not about that. Do you want to see a good match? And if you care about the women's revolution like you say you do, you would want to see people who are going to put out the best product. And I don't care what anybody says. I wrote this article sometime like maybe 2 years ago, and the WWE started using it in their actual storyline. They were putting it up on the screen when she she's already the greatest ever. From everything, she has no weaknesses. There is nothing she cannot do in the ring in regards to the wrestling business. She cuts a promo as well as anybody, man or woman. She can do every single move, whether it be high flying or physical strength, no matter what it is. She has a presence. And we can talk about why this shouldn't matter, but it does. She's not bad to look at, but she's not the type of person who's there only because of their looks, because she can do everything on top of that. She is 100% the total package. And you evaluate men wrestlers the same way. They have to have a look, and you think that the guys who are not like the more attractive guys don't get over more. That's not true. It does. It goes both ways. That's the way wrestling is, right? And Charlotte has it all. She has it all. So it's crazy to think, like, dude, Becky hit on, and I wrote this up, and she started tweeting it out actually, and Connor jumped on it. I wrote the article. I said that Becky is channeling her inner Conor McGregor, and that's exactly what she's done. But she responded to my tweet on my article and said the man channels no one. Okay, Becky, you're channeling Conor McGregor, and everybody can see it. Everything you're doing is Conor McGregor, and I'm not hating on it because it was smart. He's the man in your country from an international standpoint. He's one of the most famous athletes, and that's what you did. And I'm not mad at you, but at the end of the day, in the ring, Becky has some limitations because she's not a great athlete. She's a great professional wrestling personality, and she's a good enough technician in the ring where she can have a good match, but she's not a phenomenal athlete. Charlotte is a freak athlete, and she has all of those other things too.
I would definitely agree. Like I said, I'm not mad at this. The only fear that I had with putting Charlotte in the match is what happens with Asuka. And there's plenty of other chances to put people over, and we'll get into that probably within this next match, which is the Elimination Chamber match for the women's tag team titles, which they rushed. And I'm going to bring up some points about this, but we have Bayley and Sasha Banks versus Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan from the Riott Squad. That's really hard to say, by the way, WWE. You have Nia Jax and Tamina, who have the last spot in this match. And then we had all the SmackDown people who just declared themselves in and didn't have to win matches, which I could tell is why it's so clustery. You have the Iconics, Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, Carmella and Naomi, which is a team that I like that they threw together because they're both former NBA dancers. And we also have Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, Fire and Desire. So I think this one's going to be interesting. Bryan, first thing I'm going to have you think about while I give my thoughts on this is I want to hear what you think of Nia Jax. WWE, I also have in a note, is going to push Mandy Rose soon. She's got blonde hair. She's got a look. I think they're going to push her eventually after they break her away from Sonya Deville. I already said that about Carmella and Naomi. I think Bayley and Sasha are my prediction to win this match. I think they deserve this honor. They've went through a lot of stuff. They both have been misused, and they've been slowly building them back up. Hashtag AEW effect. And it's good to see that a little bit. But here's my issue with this whole ordeal, Bryan. Just for this match. WWE is trying to put focus on this and these women's tag team titles. And the belts look beautiful for once. Usually I hate how WWE's titles have looked recently. I feel that they have too many titles at this point. and it's not a popular opinion that I have. You can't run a tags division for the men. The Raw men's tag division is horrible. They had a great match last night, but this tag division is horrible. SmackDown isn't too much better. You only have one or two teams that can win the belts. And why have a women's tag division? And I'm going to stand by that. I don't see the point in this. I said a lot right there, but
I vehemently disagree with that. I definitely think they have a tag team. They should have a tag team division. I actually think they should have a SmackDown and a Raw tag team, women's tag team championship. I think that what they need to do is they need to bring up some of the talent from NXT to make the female roster more plentiful so that they'll have more to choose from. I would not be opposed to having an actual tag team show that they have. Maybe they have it on, add a show on the WWE Network, Tag Team Tuesdays, or Tag Team Thursday, because that's a day that they don't currently have like a big program or whatever, and or Saturdays, something like that. Even if it was tape delayed, just put a tag team show on that actually puts a focus back on tag teams. Now you can still have tag team matches, championship matches or whatever, different things like that at pay-per-views on Raw and on SmackDown. But I do think that there's a lack of focus on on tag team wrestling. And I recall, man, when I was a kid, the most thrilling match, like the first match that really, really got me, right? When I was a kid, like I watched wrestling, but this one had me, like this whole angle. The British Bulldogs trying to dethrone the Hart Foundation. That was like, man. And I remember when the way they finally won, I believe Davey Boy, Dynamite Kid was on the top rope, like perched up, like not fully on the top rope, like one foot on the top and the bottom foot is on the second rope. And Davey Boy Smith grabbed Bret Hart's head and he rammed Bret Hart's head into Dynamite Kid's head. Bret Hart falls down and they get the pin, and that's how they won the tag team titles. And they had been having all these near misses leading up to it and kept feeling like they were going to win. And they finally got the tag team titles that way. And that was like the biggest thing for wrestling for me at that point. And they just don't do things like that with the tag team division anymore. And I think the women's roster need to have that sort of an angle, something like that, that can happen. It to me, it just feels like tag team wrestling in the WWE is almost like stand-up comedy. Like a comedians do stand-up and then they get famous and then they never do stand-up again because it's like almost like the dunk contest too. It's like, yeah. I always say stand-up comedy and a dunk contest are like kind of the same thing. Stand-up comedy is to a comic what the dunk contest is to a basketball player, like a great basketball player. Like you do the dunk contest before you become a superstar. And once you become a superstar, you don't do the dunk contest anymore. The stand-up comedy is the same way. And it's almost like tag team wrestling is going the same route. It's like you do a tag, you're in a tag team when you're not that guy or that girl yet. And then once you become that guy, that girl, then it's all about the singles thing. But I just think that that's a bad way to treat tag team wrestling, because I think it's really cool. I actually also think there should be a 6-man tag team championship. Like
no more belts, Brian. I can't. Yeah, no more shows. No more belts.
I think it would be awesome, man. Like back in the day, they used to have the World Class Championship Wrestling. Mm-hmm. They said, the Von Erichs would fight the Freebirds for the 6-man tag team. It was awesome, man. Imagine if they had a 6-man tag team title when the Shield first got there.
Ring of Honor and New Japan have 6-man tag team titles.
Yeah. It's dope, man. It's dope for some awesome matches sometimes.
Here's the difference, though. They treat those titles with respect. I fear WWE's going to act like they ran out of ideas. Like, these are all the girls. You even had to throw together Carmella and Naomi just to complete this match. If you're not calling people up, what are you doing?
But think about it like this, right? The show is 3 hours. Raw is 3 hours. SmackDown is 2 hours. How much content during those 3 and 2 hours do you watch that you go, you know what, I didn't even need to see that? What if that time was given to the development of a 6-man tag or a Raw women's title, Raw women's tag team, SmackDown women's tag? That would make you care about those parts of the show. it would make you care. You'd be like, oh, okay, this part is for a title. Let's watch from 7:40 to 8:20 because this part is about a title, as opposed to being about something that nobody cares about.
I think as long as it's treated with the respect, Brian, I think I've lost faith in the creative writing team and everything that they've been up to lately. If it doesn't concern whoever the top players are, maybe a Becky, a Ronda, a Charlotte, that is kind of just like backburnered sometimes and they just don't care. And they're just like, oh, whatever, we'll throw the tag belts on the B team. Like, bro, who thought that was a good idea? I want to meet the person who said, yeah, B team. That's it. Like, I thought that was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, though. You know what I'm saying? It's like that maybe the way they're doing it isn't great, but the concept is still good.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Hopefully it works out, and maybe I'll be proven wrong. I've been wrong before with this stuff. Let's get to the SmackDown Live tag team titles real quick. We have a perfect example right here. Shane McMahon and The Miz are the tag team champions versus the Usos. So Shane McMahon and The Miz holding the titles look like they're going to be used as a plot device for a singles feud between them. But yeah. I still don't understand where they're going with this. And I don't know who's going to turn on who. Usually I could tell this stuff, but this is kind of a weird feud. And I don't know if I like it really. But maybe it'll all make sense once all the puzzle pieces connect. I got the Usos winning this one, Brian. What say you with this whole feud and everything going on?
I would love to see Shane turn. I think that would be cool to see, because everybody expects it to be The Miz. But I would like to see Shane turn. I think that would be cool. But, we'll see what happens. I don't have a major issue with it. I have a major issue.
Do you think the cracks in the team start to show in this match? Do you think like the Usos walk away with the tag titles, or?
You know what? It's hard to tell because it depends on when that actually happens. When the crack actually happens, is the crack going to happen in this match? Are they going to stretch it out like they did? Like, 'cause I remember with Jericho and Kevin Owens, we kept feeling like they were going to break up sooner than they actually did. So maybe they're going to do something similar to that. I don't know. I would, as far as I'm concerned, the Usos can be the tag team champions all the time. They're the most underrated tag team. I mean, they're the most underrated performers, I think. Maybe they're in the top 5 most underrated performers in the WWE over the last 10 years, I think.
Yeah, I think they put the belts on them too because of #AEW effect. And I just really feel that they're the best tag team right now in the WWE. It's between them, New Day, and The Bar, and you could interchange all 3 of them in and out, I feel. But they're the best.
I don't know. Is there a tag team in professional wrestling that's better than the Usos?
Don't ask the Young Bucks because they think they're the best. You know what? I'm a big fan of the Lucha Bros too, though. I like Pentagon and Phoenix.
I just want them to be whoever they want to be. Now, if that's who they want to be, then that's cool. If this is the gimmick that they want, then I would be more readily, because if this is what they chose, I'm fine with that. Because then at that way, to me, at that point, then you're honoring your culture. But I would want that to be their decision, and I don't know if it is.
I think they made it more modern is what they needed to do with it. Because before, remember when they would come out doing the dancing and they were hanging out with Cena with the face paint on and stuff? Yeah, I think that was too much. Mm-hmm. And they had to dial it back a little bit. And I think the Usos embraced you could tell these guys like hip hop. You could tell by their promos that they are battle rap fans. I'm a hip hop fan myself.
Right.
And that's exactly what the promos are. They are battle raps, no beats. And they're out there, and one Uso's just like, yeah, tell him, Us, bow, 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 bow. Tell him, Us, bow, 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 bow. And then he's just hyping the other one up, and it works perfectly for them.
It's great. It's awesome. I mean, they're almost like a much more tame version of the Briscoes now.
Yes, and I absolutely, I like the Briscoes too. There's a lot of good tag teams. Brian, have you seen, now this is a side rant, and you guys can check this out too on YouTube. MLW, they have a Heart Foundation kind of team stable again with Brian Pillman's son. the British Bulldog son, and Teddy Hart. I think they're a good team too that a lot of people are sleeping on.
Yeah. British Bulldog son is really. I mean, he looks a lot like his dad too. So it's like it makes it like whoa, especially like because I like the British Bulldogs were my favorite. They were my favorite tag team. Like I loved them. So I'm probably a little, kind of more apt to watch them because I love them. I loved British Bulldog, and I loved Dynamite Kid. Maybe I wouldn't have loved them as much if I was older and I knew more about them. But when I was a kid, I loved them. So I mean, that new Heart Foundation thing is awesome. And then they recently attacked Kevin Sullivan, Kevin Sullivan could be 98 years old and he still looks menacing. It's crazy. Right? He still looks menacing. So
and I love that Boston accent that he has too when he's talking.
Yeah. He was an awesome villain. He was an awesome villain.
Yes. Guys, we're going to wrap this one up for a second here. And when we come back, we are going to be talking about the main event. It'll be time to talk about the WWE Championship being defended in the Elimination Chamber, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, and we're back with the main event for the WWE Championship, the Elimination Chamber match. We are going to have the champion, Daniel Bryan, with his friendly Planeteer Eric Rowan in his corner probably, versus Samoa Joe, versus Randy Orton, versus AJ Styles, versus Jeff Hardy. And I have question marks around Mustafa Ali. Brian, first question for you. If Mustafa Ali is taken out of this match, who do you put in there?
Buddy Murphy.
Really?
I think that would be awesome. I think that would be awesome. I think that would be absolutely awesome. Like Buddy Murphy could walk to the Elimination Chamber and like they could keep it a secret. And when he walks down and he grabs the microphone and says, you guys you wanted to get a cruiserweight. So I figured, why not get the best cruiserweight?
That would be different to actually put him in there. A lot of people would say Andrade or Rey Mysterio too.
Yeah, I would go for Andrade more than Rey Mysterio. Like, I mean, we've seen the Rey Mysterio thing. We've seen that. If he comes down there, he's not going to win.
He'll be in there at the end and then lose the match.
Yeah, I mean, Buddy Murphy's probably not going to win either, but he's definitely not going to win. He's not going to become the WWE champion. So, I mean,
but Ali's got that underdog spot that we've seen guys like Cesaro and other people get. So I like it though. I see your point.
This match is just kind of to me because Daniel Bryan's going to win because it's like he doesn't have to. But I have a hard time believing he's not going to be his gimmick is going over too well. He's doing too well. They just had the belt made, right? They didn't just have this belt made so that they could take it off of him in 2 weeks.
Daniel Bryan's been talking about this belt for what WrestleMania was. I think it was WrestleMania 28, and I heard him do an interview where he says vegans attacked him all the time when he was the World Heavyweight Champion, saying, you walk around with a belt that's leather and you're not a real vegan. And I just thought that was hilarious that people would just dog the man like that.
Yeah, I mean, so I feel like he's not going to lose. So you got this pretty decent collection of superstars in this match, right? And we all know he's not going to lose. That's part of what I was talking about, the challenge of booking for Elimination Chamber ahead of WrestleMania. I don't see how he loses unless you turn around and have him win it back on the Tuesday following.
It's tough because right now on the SmackDown side of things, we don't know how anything's going to go at this point. I still can't figure out who's Bryan's opponent going to be. Because usually they use the chamber to determine who that would be at WrestleMania.
Right. So maybe that's how he loses. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's how he loses. Maybe Mustafa Ali or whoever replaces him ends up winning, and then that becomes the thing. Or maybe because Samoa Joe doesn't seem to fit with him. So
is there a 50-50 chance you think Ali can still be in this match?
I think so, but he's got an eye injury, right?
Well, and he said he has a nagging kind of like back injury. He's got some ones, like wrestler problems, just like my back's been bothering me lately. My eye's swollen shut.
Problems when you just jump off the top of stuff, and he has like I know you saw like about a month or so ago when he almost killed Daniel Bryan already.
Yeah, well, and he just said the week before, I don't know what I'm doing when I do that move.
Yes,
things not to say.
yes, I saw that. I don't know where I'm at. He thought it was cool, but it's not cool when you almost kill somebody. So
yeah, but I guess Bryan's the reason he's called up to the main roster, and Bryan will not admit to it or ever take credit for it. But I guess he was told that Daniel Bryan pitched to Vince, he wants you up here and he wants to work with you. So I think that's pretty cool. And how about my man Samoa Joe in here? He's someone that I always have to put over because every time I think Joe's out of the main event picture or out of the fight, Joe comes in like a savage on the microphone and he dogged everybody in this match and had me laughing.
All he has to do is get the opportunity, man. When he gets the opportunity and you give him the microphone, the dude he has it, man. Like honestly, he should have already had his title reign. He should have already had it.
He should have beat AJ.
Yeah, he should have already had a title reign. Like even if it wasn't that long, he deserves it. He's. I mean, come on, man. I mean, what doesn't he have? Like I came up with the term the 5-tool wrestler. And there is no part of that concept that he doesn't have. So I mean, like. To me, when you are a 5-tool superstar, you're a 5-tool wrestler. I think that you are supposed to have a title run, and I don't understand. He hasn't had it.
Yeah, and I feel like some of these other guys are a little past their prime when I see the names like Randy Orton, Jeff Hardy, and AJ's kind of floundering, and I don't know what they're going to do with him for Mania either. These guys are just kind of right now like we got to figure out where we're going to slot you on the card.
Yeah, and that's a bad thing when you have talented guys like Orton and Styles, because Orton can still work an awesome angle if you gave him something compelling. You know what I mean? He could still be, but they don't have anything compelling for him to be involved with. I don't know. I mean, I think him and Mustafa Ali could work a great program together. I think Orton and Daniel Bryan could work a great angle together. Like they had something before, when Orton was Triple H's guy. But I think like now they could do something amazing together. I think Jeff Hardy's popped. Like, I mean,
I think he's the nostalgia factor at this point. Like, oh, it's Jeff Hardy, yay! And he doesn't need to be there every week. He can show up every other week, every 2 weeks. And Jeff Hardy, you know what you're getting when you get him. Listen, if I played me at WrestleMania 33 when their music hit, that was it. That was the most I think the Hardy Boys were going to get out of me ever again because I went crazy for him. But I like you said, he's popped at this point. And I think he's just trying to get his last few matches in, make his little bit of money and walk away or become a producer or do something else.
Yeah, and he deserves that.
And one last commending thing for Daniel Bryan, because on the Facebook group, this is the back picture. Daniel Bryan as Captain Planet, as I keep calling it. They keep saying the new Daniel Bryan. I don't say that. The man is Captain Planet, and I absolutely love this gimmick. I love that he comes out in those ratty sweaters. Everybody knows a dude like this on the corner shouting at you like, you should be saving those cans and you should be doing this.
You should be saving those
cans. And it's just like, man, come on, dude.
He's awesome. I mean, and a little subtle piece of his brilliance. And like I've had the pleasure of speaking with Daniel Bryan in person and on the phone multiple times, maybe 5 or 6 times. And the awesome thing is like this part of it doesn't come natural for him. Like he's a physical guy. Like so the wrestling and all that comes natural for him. The mic stuff is something that he's had to get better at. Like he told me, he was like, because he was in the middle of the thing with the Miz the last time I spoke to him, and he was like, the Miz, he was like, Miz had to work on the wrestling part. He was like, the mic work is easy for the Miz. He said, but I'm the opposite. He was like, the wrestling stuff is like what comes to me, but the mic stuff is what I struggle with, and I had to learn to get better at. And to see where he is now, man, is just really amazing because it was, like I said, it's a real subtle piece of brilliance he did. When he came out with Rowan on, I think, the last episode of SmackDown. Rowan started to get some boos, and he looked, and I know they were in Washington, so they were in Daniel Bryan's hometown, and he said, "How dare you boo my friend Rowan?" And it was so dope the way he did it, because, and the other part of it that made it so amazing is he's getting cheered because he's in Washington, but he's clearly a heel. So his whole, he didn't go for the cheap heat thing where you insult the hometown. He didn't do that. He was like, you know why you guys are not booing me? Because you get me. You're one of the only people who get me. Like, so he didn't take it that same way. You know,
West Coast.
Yeah, he maintained the whole heel persona, but he also took in the love from the hometown, which I thought was dope. And he did it without ever breaking character, which I thought was great work. It was great work.
And you know what else has been perfect for Bryan? Bryan has always found himself kind of in the right place at the right time, and he strikes with his character when the iron's hot, or he just happens to be in the perfect spot at the perfect time. Once again, he turned heel at the perfect time. The man had nothing else to really do with the Yes movement. He got his babyface pop when he came back at WrestleMania 34. I called that for the entire time. I said, they're going to let this dude come back. And I felt like maybe Vince and them were holding them back a little bit just so that they could do a moment like this.
Mm-hmm.
But it all worked out perfectly. Then he turned heel right when that was starting to wear off a little bit for me, where I'm like, all right, dude, you got to do something else here now besides just wrestle good matches and scream yes. And he just turned heel at the perfect time. So I got Bryan winning this. It sounds like you do too.
Yeah.
Easy. But Bryan, before we get ready to wrap this show up, I do want to let the people know first that I will have a live review up on YouTube immediately after the show on Sunday. I will have a review going up. I'll have two guests on with me, Brian Williams from Ukes, and we will also have
God.
Yes, sir. My goal is to one day have Brian and Brian on with me. I'm working on it. And
that's my guy. Yeah, we talked for a good amount of time at last year's SummerSlam. That guy knows, like, people don't realize how much the WWE 2K franchise needs him, and he's essential to that franchise because of all the people who work on that game. He knows wrestling more than I would venture to say everybody.
I agree. Me and Brian did a New Japan Pro Wrestling review because I knew he was someone who was going to know everything that I was talking about. I'm a wrestling guy. You said it before on your shows that if you're one of those people that just gets wrestling, you said it on At Me, bro, that you just get it. And I just get it. I've watched it since I was a kid. Listen, I'm the dude who brought Demolition to preschool show and tell. And I'm now thinking, now that I'm like 30 something years old, dude, what were my teachers thinking when I came in with these dudes looking like gimps with masks on? And I'm like, man, I thought they were just cool dudes with face paint. And now they're probably like, what is his parents teaching him at home?
They teach him to like Demolition.
Yeah, so
Smash.
And Malik Kelly, he's a YouTuber as well. We're gonna get him on there and get him a little shine. You can find him on YouTube at Narcolepsy Boy 94. But let's get into some questions here real quick before I let you go. Bryan, first and foremost, your thoughts on Nia Jax. I'm not going to let you get away from that, my good friend.
You know, I have some thoughts on. I really like Nia Jax. I think that she has not gotten the right type of support and push. I mean, there is an issue with the lack of safeness, though, so that's a problem. You know, one particular performer is consistently injuring their coworkers. That can't be good. You know, so that's an issue. But overall, I think she's done a really good job. And I think you want to find out somebody who's shown that they can handle the heat. She is definitely that person. She's done that. In regards to this whole intergender thing, I'm not really into that personally, because I just feel like I said, you have to draw a storyline, right? And you say, this is what's possible. And I don't want you to break your own rules because you're trying to to put someone over in a certain type of way, and this is the way you decide to put them over. Or I don't want you to put someone down because like I don't want you to don't use Nia Jax to diminish Dean Ambrose.
Got it.
You know what I mean? So it's like, so you're really not complimenting her because you're saying, okay, we're going to put you over against him because we're putting him down anyway because he's leaving. So, you know.
So you believe Ambrose is gone?
I don't know for sure. I think it's very possible that this is a work. Very possible. If it is a work, I think they should have started doing something with it before now. The problem, you know, and I don't want to open up a whole nother can of worms, but I was just speaking to Jericho about this, and the thing is, man, like, internet has been great for wrestling in a lot of ways, but it's also made it very difficult to book and to do certain things. You can't surprise anybody. You have to surprise people with the storyline. You can't really surprise people with appearances and you know, is this person signed or is this person not signed? Because all this stuff leaks. It all leaks, right? Because there's so many ways for it to leak. So if Ambrose is not really gone, we're gonna know relatively soon that this is a work, and so the whole impact of it is going to be dulled. So they're gonna have to do something pretty soon if this isn't a work, because it's going to get out there. Dave Meltzer, somebody's going to be out there. They're going to know if he doesn't already know. And you know what I mean? So it's, you know, that's my only thing. But the Nia Jax thing, I just, you know, I don't necessarily buy the whole thing where people are like, oh, you're giving an image that it's okay for men to you know, to fight women or whatever. Like, I don't think it's that. Because I do think you have to understand that it is fantasy. You know, it's not, you know, they're not really fighting, you know, but, you know, I just.
It's just not some people's thing, though. Like, I've heard other podcasters say that's just not my thing. I kind of fall in the same bracket now. It's just not, I mean, it's cool sometimes to see. It's different. Like Lucha Underground, I'm like, okay, whatever. But then in WWE, I'm kind of like, oh, this is weird. I don't really want to see this. I mean, China, I guess I was okay with it back then, but ever since then, I feel like no one else can do that. So I'm just like, nah, not feeling it.
It's not nothing. It doesn't make me go, ooh, I want to watch that. That's going to be awesome. I don't know. It just doesn't.
I'm not going to complain about it. I'll live with it if they do it. But like you said, if it wasn't brought with the character from the beginning, why is this happening?
Yes, exactly. So if that's what, like, China was different because China was kind of brought out as this exception. You know what I'm saying? That was her whole thing, you know? And yeah, it just seems like this is just kind of coming about in a forced way, so to speak. And it doesn't make any sense because you've had Nia getting tapped out by Ronda Rousey, getting tapped out by Sasha Banks, but now suddenly she can beat the former WWE champion.
Right.
Suddenly she can eliminate Mustafa Ali and all these different people. Like, you see what I mean by breaking your own rules?
Right. And that's where Mustafa Ali's back injury supposedly came from, when Nia Jax dumped him out too. I don't know how true that is.
I think they're just blaming it. I mean, somebody get like pink eye, they're gonna blame it on Nia Jax right now. So
yeah. When he showed his eye, you saw she put up like she retweeted it, but with the comment, and she was like, oh, I didn't know I was on SmackDown. I was like, come on, dude. But I thought that was clever of her to do that.
Yeah, she's handling it pretty well, you know. She's handling it pretty well, like just the heat thing. And that's very impressive, I think, for her. But yeah, I don't know, man. Let her dominate the division you brought her into, you know what I'm saying? Which is where she should be dominating. You know, she should have had a long run as the WWE, as the Raw Women's Champion. She should have been like the Raw Women's Champion for like 5 months.
I thought so too. I think they wasted that. I was happy when she won at Mania. She deserved it, but
yeah,
that's another topic for another time. Bryan, 2 more questions for you, then we'll get you out of here. First, you did a video on the Elimination Chamber. And I was it 15 facts you didn't know? I can't think of the exact title of it.
15 things you should know.
15 things you should know about the Elimination Chamber. Now, they had a different name potentially for the chamber that you said you liked.
Yes, the Chamber of Conflict I thought was dope.
Well, I'm going to give you a chance to tell me. You could take any wrestlers from any era. You got 6 of them. Who do you put in there for the WWE Championship?
You said from any era?
Any era.
I would put Stone Cold, The Rock, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Seth Rollins, and Rob Van Dam.
And who goes over?
The Rock.
That's what I like to hear. I would ask you which Rock theme, but we'll be here for a long time because people battle over what's the best Rock theme. But last but not least, I kept preaching this AEW effect. So if you don't want to hear it, this is probably where you're going to want to turn the podcast off because I don't really care because this is big news in pro wrestling and we have to talk about it. Rumor mill is that AEW, after they put on their first show, that they will have shows every month afterwards. This is all coming from Wrestle Talk. So make sure you guys check those guys out. And they are talking about having a show on Tuesday nights right when SmackDown switches over to the Fox network.
Yes.
Bryan, who do you think AEW needs to bring in?
Well, let me just tell you, that will happen.
What, they're doing it right when it switches? That's good business. I have 3 business degrees.
The Tuesday night show is going to happen.
But what are your thoughts on AEW? Let me hear you spiel on this real quick here.
I'm excited about it. You know, I'm definitely excited about it, and I do think they need to have a regular show in order for it to, to really hit. I think there's a very big possibility that the show ends up on a streaming service. So keep an eye out on that. I think that that's a possibility. I'm not going to say Netflix necessarily, but I think there's a possibility the show could end up on a streaming service, and somebody, whoever embraces it is going to be somebody that embraces live sports content because they understand the pool in that. But if I had to say, like, who do they need to bring in? I think they need one. They already won Kenny Omega from the WWE. I think they need to snatch someone from the WWE. Like, they need to get somebody who, a actual name, like a Randy Orton would, to me, be the one that they get. And not because Randy Orton is the top guy in WWE, but because he is a absolute Mount Rushmore type of a guy with the WWE. And he's still good enough as a performer to put on great matches. So it wouldn't be like, here comes this old guy, like you ran Kurt Angle out there or something like that. It wouldn't be like that. So it would be the Macho Man going to WCW, which it was like, whoa, they got Hogan and they got him? Hold on. Yes. It would be, it would be something like that. So I think that he's a guy. They need one guy from the WWE, I think, that really changes something. And I think he's the guy who could do that. So he would be the one that I would say is the most valuable for them to get. We'll see if that happens. I know there's some rumors out there about that. The whole Goldberg Lesnar stuff. Like, I don't like that. I don't want to see them go cheap pop. And those guys are not going to wrestle. Everybody's mad because Brock Lesnar took the WWE by hostage. There is, to me, Brock Lesnar is a microcosm of mostly what's wrong with the WWE. Why would you want to go get a symbol of that? And the weird thing with all of this is, Bryan, are you familiar with Barry Bloom, the agent? Yes. Barry Bloom is representing a lot of these wrestlers, and people probably don't know that. And they will put out fake news stories, even to say someone's going to AEW, because Vince McMahon's going to come back and say, I'll give you 1.5 times the amount. Is that good enough for you? All right, yeah. You don't sell that to Dave Meltzer. It's good. Yeah. So we'll sign. We're good. Everyone's going to do that. You're going to hear as soon as someone loses or jobs out, they're going to AEW. They're out. I honestly think that the WWE should start using the AEW as a storyline. I really think they should. I think they should embrace it, and they should start telling people who lose, oh, what are you going to that AWE or A&W root beer promotion, or what are you? I think they should start doing it. I mean, it's not like people don't know that it exists already. You know what I'm saying? So
and Cody and them are going to throw the shots right back at them with Kazarian dressed up like Triple H or something backstage. Like, you wanted to see me, boss?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I think they really should start doing that. You know, don't act like the UFC, I think, has been guilty of that. Like UFC, like absolutely, like they tried to completely ignore their competition. Like it just, like Bellator doesn't exist. Like one championship doesn't exist. And it's like, come on, man, you know where this guy. I mean, like, so Eddie Alvarez, who came from Bellator, is a former Bellator champion. He got the UFC, and they wouldn't say Bellator. Like, it's like, dude.
I think it's just an old schoolism, and you don't want someone to turn the channel like Mick Foley. They don't want the Mankind thing to happen. Mick Foley, who was Cactus Jack over here, is going to win the WWF title tonight. Yeah, that'll put butts in seats. Click, 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 click. Oh man, we shouldn't have said that. I think they don't want to look foolish and have that come back to haunt them. But like you said, though, you can't deny it too. Like it's not happening. It's real. This is what's going on in the world.
Yeah, and in this day and age, man, you can't keep secrets from people. You have to embrace the information that's out there. The fact that there is so much information out there, you got to embrace it, and you got to find a way to roll with it, roll with what is happening. And this is what is happening. There's competition out there, and you got to come at it. You know, you got to come and attack, because Vince is very confrontational just in nature anyway. You know what I'm saying? So why not just go and get it, man? Just go get it. Here they come. Here they come. You got more. I know Shad Khan has some money, but Vince still got more money than Shad Khan. You know, he's still got more.
He's got more money that he's willing to put down on this deal.
Yeah. You know, so, you know what I mean? Let's go. Let's go. You know, that you got embrace it that way. And I think that would be really cool for Vince. I mean, for the WWE to just be like, come on, let's go. You want a war? Like, if Vince cut a promo and said, you want a war? You want a war? You remember the last people that went to war with me? Let's go.
And that's, you know what? And I think this is what pro wrestling needs, though. This is probably the most interesting it's been in a long time, where I'm looking up contracts. I want to know what's the news, who's going where, what show's going on here. Oh, look, it's MLW. Oh, Ring of Honor's got a good show. Ring of Honor signed Bandino. Like, you're just looking at all the news and what's happening, and there's so many things going on that I think it's a good time to be a wrestling fan at this point. And AEW is only making things better, in my opinion, right now.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, that's the way it is, man. And I just, like I said, I think Vince really needs to embrace it and just say, hey, man, this is what you want. Let's go. Let's get it.
Absolutely.
Man, imagine if Vince cut a promo sitting in a chair like the Godfather and said, you want a war? You really want a war? Man, dude, that would blow people away.
And like, Vince McMahon, if you want to hire him, his Twitter handle is @UniqueMazique, and he will finish telling you the rest of that with your checkbook in front of you.
Right. Oh, God, dude. I give away so many ideas that I think are actually money. It doesn't make any sense. I kind of got over it. I used to second guess all the time when I would just spew these different ideas, but
you know what, though? If you're at the round table, that's what time it is.
Yeah.
And on Saturday, I will have EPW Connects, my first ever roundtable show. We'll have some people on there talking a bunch of different topics, and I want to do it Saturday, 12 noon. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, which will be in the description box for this podcast. And we will also have all of Bryan's stuff in there. Now, before I let Bryan go, I do have to tell him something. I've told Bryan this in private messages before, but Bryan is one of the reasons why I do a show like this for pro wrestling, so that there's kind of a professional aspect to this, talking business behind it, logic, everything else. And sometimes you don't agree with everybody that you talk about it with, but it's always good fun. And I appreciate Bryan. He's one of my inspirations for why I do this podcast, along with several others. I piece the ideas all together, but I wanted to let him know that. And also, I wanted to give Bryan a few minutes here to plug his stuff and let the people know where they can find you, Bryan.
I appreciate that, man. On both ends, man. I definitely, I try to do what I do to try to be an inspiration to people, man. And I think that's really important because somebody inspired me. Talk shows and Steve Noah of Operation Sports has been a humongous inspiration for me. I've told him that on multiple occasions. So I appreciate being that for somebody. But yeah, you can find me. I write for Forbes a whole lot. And I have the YouTube channels that I mentioned a little bit earlier. And for the most part, you can see pretty much everything I do if you follow me on Twitter. I don't tweet as much of my content out as regularly as I used to because I kind of a little bit worried of having my Twitter account just be a bunch of links all the time. But yeah.
Bryan, I thank you so much for coming on the show. I have you stick around for 2 seconds afterwards just so I could talk to you. But guys, thank you for listening to Everything Pro Wrestling. Without you guys, the show is nothing, and it's a show by the fans, for the fans. So make sure you guys check out this episode and make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We're out. Peace.